Many people in Britain feed birds in their garden. As a nation, we spend an estimated £200 to £300 million on bird feeding products each year. That's almost $100 in today's market, approximately. But exchange rates aside, the amount of food provided for our garden birds could sustain up to 196 million birds. That's more than the combined total population of many common garden species. As a result, the numbers and variety of birds visiting our feeders has significantly increased over the last few decades. It's not just urban gardens where birds enjoy the convenience of a feeder. Today I've come to Sculthorpe Moor, a nature reserve in Norfolk, England, to do a spot of birdwatching. I'm not alone either. I'm accompanied by fellow nature YouTubers Liam from the channel A Shot of Wildlife.
It's nice to be nice. No, it's
Graham from the channel Naturally Curious UK.
It's been interesting to see the reserve.
And Fred from the channel Watch Our Wildlife. Links to their channels can be found in the description of this video. Check them out to see their perspective of today's visit. Most of the hides at Sculthorpe Moor have bird feeders positioned in convenient places to provide us with a good view of the visiting birds. This feeder is covered with greenfinches, which favour the black sunflower seeds. The greenfinch is currently red listed for conservation in the UK. Populations declined during the 1970s and early 1980s, but increased dramatically during the 1990s. There has been a recent decline in numbers which has been linked to an outbreak of trichomoniasis, a parasite-induced disease that prevents birds from feeding properly. Unfortunately, this demonstrates one of the downsides to garden feeders. With a large number of birds gathering in one place to feed, the spread of disease is much easier. Bird feeders should be kept clean for this reason. Here the greenfinches have been joined by some sparrows, another red-listed bird. This is however somewhat surprising to me, as they're one of the only species of birds I regularly see in my own garden. But UK house sparrow populations have dropped by an estimated 71% between 1977 and 2008, and the numbers are disappearing from many city centres. Joining this juvenile greenfinch are a pair of related birds. This first one is a great tit, the largest tit in the UK. It is a resident of woodlands but has readily adapted to garden feeders. During the winter it can form flocks with other tits, such as this blue tit, to look for food across gardens and the countryside. The blue tit is one of the most recognisable birds to visit our feeders, and some might say one of the most colourful and attractive. Feeding on huge numbers of caterpillars in the spring and summer, they feed on seeds and nuts during the winter. Oh, I'll need to slow that one down a bit, as this was the only footage of a nuthatch I managed to capture. Found in woodlands and parks throughout England and Wales, and occasionally in southern Scotland, these birds tend not to travel very far from the woods where they were hatched. Now this is a bird familiar to most in the UK, because this is apparently the UK's favourite bird. It is of course the European robin, found on Christmas cards across the world and in gardens all year round. They may look cute, but robins are aggressively territorial and are quick to drive away intruders. The feeding time of the small birds we've seen so far is interrupted momentarily by a collared dove. They are a very familiar sight to be seen just about anywhere, but surprisingly they only came to the UK in the 1950s, after a rapid spread across Europe from the Middle East. Moving away from the hanging feeders now to a feeding table for two more finches. The first seen here is a chaffinch. Chaffinches are usually ground feeders, not openly feeding on bird feeders, but perhaps the design of the table here is acceptable to it. It is one of the most widespread and abundant birds in Britain, however you're more likely to hear them before you see them, as they have a very loud and varied call. The second finch to appear at the table is this beautiful male bullfinch. They were once considered a pest of fruit crops, as they feed on the buds of various trees in spring. They are currently amber listed for conservation in the UK, with their numbers having declined nearly 40% since 1970, mainly caused by loss and damage to woodlands and orchards. One thing you may have noticed while watching these birds feed is they're not the most tidy of creatures. These birds have been dropping and flinging seeds all over the place as they search out for the tastiest of morsels. This has consequences down on the ground. The birds aren't the only animals taking advantage of the feeders. This quick little rodent is a bank vole. It is the smallest vole found in the UK, weighing only around 15 to 40 grams. It is a common vole found in hedgerows, woodlands, parks and gardens, and here under a bird feeder. It usually likes to feed on hazelnuts and blackberries and small insects, but can be seen here taking advantage of the seeds dropped by the birds above. They are very agile and active and do not hibernate during the winter. They live in shallow burrows or sometimes in grassy nests above ground if digging isn't possible. Voles have blunter, rounder faces than mice, and their tails are also shorter. Another rodent, this time much bigger than the vole. This is the brown rat, an omnivorous animal eating pretty much anything, but here, like the vole, taking advantage of the messy birds. The rat has a bad reputation, but for the most part it lives alongside us without much issue. It may be extremely common and found almost everywhere, but it wasn't always so. The brown rat originated in Asia and was introduced into the UK in the 1700s. It was carried on ships and has spread throughout the world. Its success is due to its incredible adaptability and its famously good breeding. A female rat can breed from around 3 months old and has an average of 5 litters a year, each of up to 12 young. Well, I've got one more animal to show you today. Bigger than anything we've seen so far. This is the Muntjac deer, another Asian import. This species was introduced into the UK from China at the start of the 20th century at Woburn Park in Bedfordshire. It escaped and rapidly spread into the surrounding area. Now it can be found across the southeast of England in woodlands, parks and even gardens. Click on the card to see a pair of Muntjac deer I captured with my nocturnal trail camera. The muntjac is not likely to be feeding off the scraps left by the birds, but on the understory of the woodland from shrubs and shoots to brambles. Although an invasive species, they are protected in the UK under the Deer Act of 1991. Well, that wraps up today's visit of Sculthorpe Moor. I do hope you've enjoyed the video, and to see more of the day, make sure you visit Liam, Graham and Fred for their videos. Their channels will be linked down below. Tell them I sent you. If you enjoyed the video, please do let me know by leaving a like and a comment down below, and I hope to see you again in the next video. Goodbye.